Hello knitters and friends! Welcome to the Seedling Stitch Knitting Podcast. My name is Athena and I am a knitwear designer coming to you from Vancouver, Canada, and I also work here at our local yarn store, West Coast Wools, on weekends and sometimes Fridays. And this is my little space on YouTube where I chat about my knitting projects, sometimes crochet, about my knitwear design process, thoughts, and since I started picking up sewing from the beginning of this year, so there will be a little bit of sewing contents as well. And I regularly knit or sew from Japanese patterns, so if you're interested in Japanese patterns or Chinese patterns knitting community, then you may enjoy my podcast, hopefully. And from this episode onwards, I'll be instead of naming my podcast in episode 1, episode 2, etc., I'll be instead naming with the month. So I think I will be putting up a new episode about like one episode each month to talk about what I've done over the past month. And that's probably is better categorized so that you can easily find the type or the season of the projects that you'll be interested in. So this will be my June 2023 episode. I've finished a lot of things in the past month. So many finished objects that I'd like to share with you in this episode. Oh, and by the way, I'm not a native English speaker, so feel free to speed up the video and ignore my grammar mistakes, please. Okay, so thank you for watching and welcome if you're new, and feel free to bring your knitting projects, your drinks, snacks, and I'll get started with today's episode. So first of all, let's talk about this. Let's talk about what I am wearing. This is the Kuutar top. I think many of you have known it's been quite a popular pattern on Ravelry. It's designed by the talented Sari Nordlund. She has a series of designs featuring this beautiful lace pattern. She has a tee, a sweater, a cardigan, a beret, and probably more. Just search for Kuutar. Kuutar, in her language, Danish, I believe, it means the moon goddess. So in order to echo the theme of the moon, I chose this yellow color, which is the color of the moon, and now I sort of feel like a moon goddess. It's a very beautiful top and I'm very happy with it. It's not for me actually, it's a store sample for West Coast Wools, so it's usually displayed in store to, you know, attract customers to buy this yarn. But I borrowed it just for today to film this episode, and also to wear it. And let's talk about the yarn. Since this is a store sample, so since a couple weeks or months ago, we started carrying the Knitting for Olive yarn at West Coast Wools. We're getting the pure silk. I'm knitting this with the pure silk, and we're also getting the merino and the soft mohair. And in the future, we'll be getting the cotton merino and also the compatible cashmere during the winter. So a lot of good things to look forward to in West Coast Wools. If you are interested, you can look at our online store. We ship worldwide, and there's a free shipping, like I think about $200 for US and Canada. So we carry a lot of beautiful yarns, and if you're in Vancouver, please drop by. I'm very proud of where I'm working at. Okay, that's a little bit of ad talk. Let's talk about the pure silk. It's the first time that I ever worked with a pure silk yarn, and it's very interesting. So I've read in in the book of yarn by Clara Parks that she enjoyed using wooden needles with the pure silk yarn, but for me, I'm the opposite. I feel this pure silk is it's very squeaky on wooden needles. I don't know if this happens to you, so instead I changed into the higher sharp, the stainless steel needles like this type to work with this yarn. and that's much better. It's much smoother. I don't know, it's just for me. Some people find silk is very slippery. At least for this pure silk from Knitting for Olive, I don't find so. I think it's the friction of this yarn is just enough at a very good level. It's not as slippery like as linen yarns. So I do enjoy working with stainless steel needles with it, and also I'm not afraid of dropping stitches. I generally fix drop stitches fairly confidently, so I do enjoy using the stainless steel needles with this yarn. And I think it's a beautiful yarn, very appropriate for this pattern. It shows up the lace work very beautifully, and also it doesn't drip too much. Like, it doesn't grow as a pure linen yarn. The pure linen yarn can grow huge, but for this one it's fine. I had to reduce the needle size by 1. The pattern called for 3.5 millimeter. I used 3.25 millimeter for the stockinette and 2.75 for the lace work. And I meet the exact gauge of the Kuutar top. And I don't find this too holey. I think the fabric looks perfect. And the best part of the project is that I used 2 balls of yarn exactly. So I weigh this whole thing, it's 100 grams. I also made a small swatch, but I think like for these yarn, they generally give you like 1 gram or like 2 grams more than 50 grams. So I used that small amount to make a small swatch for the thing. And then it's a top-down construction, so I can stop wherever I don't have enough yarn. So I think I just have like a yarn tail of 20 centimeters left after finishing the whole project. So extra points for me for winning the game of yarn chicken. So I made the size S. The length I made was a bit shorter than the desired. So just for reference for you, if you're gonna make similar size, then you only need 2 balls of yarn. So that's great value. I always hate having just a little bit of extra yarn and the garment was done, and then you have no use for the yarn, and then you have to figure out some like scrappy project for it. But for this one, perfect. And other than that, generally I'm not super happy with the bunch of lace in the front, but I don't know, with the basic bra that I've knitted wearing beneath, I think it's fine. The lace was so beautiful, so no complaint. Before I've said that, Sari said that in her pattern and on Ravelry page as well, that this lace pattern was adapted from the Japanese Stitch Bible by Hitomi Shida, a Japanese designer. I've showed you the original pattern in my previous episodes, but I think I didn't show it very properly, and some of you might misunderstood. So I'll just show you again. So this is the Japanese Stitch Bible. There's an English version as well. I have the Chinese translation. It's mostly diagrams, charts, and stuff. So the language doesn't really matter. And I found the pattern that Sari adapted. It's the number, it's this one. It's the number 59. And I find that you have to look it upside down to compare. So this is the pattern, and this is the lace pattern. So it's very clear that it's almost the same. So with the like leafy kind of shape, which is like here, and the part that Sarah made the modification was that instead of just having it in the same width, Sari adapted so that it's like around yoke, it's like some increases between these pattern repeats so that it grows wider and wider, so that this pattern can be adapted to like a top like this, or a sweater, like a round yoke sweater, or like a beret, that sort of thing. So here it is. And I also find that there are quite a few designers that have adapted designs from this book. Sari herself, there's also a few other patterns that she mentioned that she used patterns, stitch patterns that was adapted from this book. And there's also Valentina. I'll put her Instagram here. And she also had quite a few patterns that was just like an adapted version of the Hitomi Shida patterns. I don't know how I feel about this as a knitwear designer. So there are change, like the modification, but the lace is still largely similar, and it's more like a technical design rather than a very creative, original design. Well, I know that for knitting design, there are only so many stitches that you can combine, but with this level of similarness, so it's the work that was done was mostly like a technical level, and like the grading and how to put the patterns on a fit of the overall garment, and also like writing down the written instruction for the charts, as I know this book is not accessible to most of the knitters. It's purely charts. There's no written instructions at all. And it's great that these designers, they're putting out the work to make these beautiful patterns more accessible to the English knitting world. That's great. And also like the designs from Hitomi Shida herself, this Japanese designer, her work is more like overall just the lace everywhere in the whole garment. It's not the style for everybody, and I think with like the Sari's adaptation with all these stockinette portions, then it makes the garment more accessible to more knitters. So it's a good thing, but also I would love to see more originality in the designers. Like, I appreciate Sari. She also had some original patterns. She has some beautiful designs that's coming from her own cable designs or lace designs, and that's just great. And it's good that we learn something from the beautiful stitch patterns from the Japanese Stitch Bible, but also on the other hand, I do want to see something that's original from these designers. Yes. So I probably shouldn't say too much. It's a beautiful pattern. No complaint. And it's good that the Japanese knitting community and the English knitting world are brought out together in this way. But also, I'm looking forward to seeing more originality from the designers that's like reflecting their own knitting culture and thoughts. So that's my thoughts on Kuutar. Oh, and also there's an interesting thing about the silk yarn is that there is like a natural slantness. If you look at the bottom part, the stockinette, you can see it has an orientation. It's like slanted this way, and that's where I started knitting in the round. And I think this is true for a lot of silk yarn, just because of like how they were spun. I'm not a super scientist on the silk yarn, but just be aware that there is a thing when knitting in the round for the pure silk yarn. Some of them may slant as this, and this doesn't happen for knitting in the flat because like it's balanced because you're knitting back and forth. But when you're knitting in the round, just due to the feature characteristics of this yarn, it will shape like that. And if it's the stockinette, it doesn't matter. But if you are knitting some pattern like lace or cable or whatever with this yarn, it will also reflect this slantedness of this yarn. So to avoid that, you may wish to knit in the flat and then sew them together, or try some other yarn that doesn't do this. So yeah, just a little note about the pure silk yarn. Okay, so this is the Kuutar top, and I'm also excited to talk about my finished objects. And the first one is my vine top, regular length. In my last episode, I've showed you the failed version, the problematic version of this. This is my own design. It's called vine top, and it's knitted top down. It's a sleeveless top featuring this vine stitch pattern. It starts from the shoulder strap, and there are 2 vines, and it grows separate, and one to the V-neck collar and the other to the side, and there's an extra strand, so the side will be all with this beautiful vine stitch. And the vine stitch, there are it's a rather small pattern repeat, but it's fun. I invented this, so it's original. And there's a little bit of lace, a little bit of twisted stitch, and a little bit of cabling. So there's everything, but there's only a little bit. And the majority of the knitting would still be stockinette, but as you're knitting in the round, these fun stitch work will spice up your knitting a little bit. So just depending on how easy you can remember these pattern repeats, it could be a very relaxing knit, or for some other test knitters, they say they have to focus on these stitch patterns. But as you knit more and more, these patterns will sort of grow on you. For me, I can already remember because I've knitted this for so long. And in my last episode, I've shown that I had a problem with my design where the shoulder strap was not carefully designed, so that it grows very long and the top looks like this. It's ridiculous. And then since then, I redesigned the top part, but I got lazy and I don't want to knit the bottom part again. So I used a sweater surgery technique to graft the bottom part of the previous sample to the top part of my new sample, just so that I don't have to re-knit the whole bottom part because it was the same. And what I did was that I used the lifeline method to secure the stitch of the bottom part where I want to graft, and then I cut the top part, the bad top part, out, and then I use Kitchener stitch to sew the good top part with the good bottom part together. And the Kitchener stitch, usually it works well with the stockinette portion, but with my stitch work, it gets a little bit tricky. I had to guess how to do it. It's not perfect, and I think it's here. I think this is the line where I did the grafting. It's almost not noticeable. And here I think I have some yarn end. If you cannot see it, it means my sweater surgery was very, very successful. I don't know if you can see it. It's roughly here. There's a little bit of imperfection, but I think, I mean, if I was taking photos of this, it's not noticeable at all. So I think, yeah, good for me. Saved some knitting time. Probably saved like a week worth of knitting time. So that's great for efficiency of work. So for this one, I designed several versions. This is the regular length version, and with a split hem, because it goes to the hip part, and as the hip grows wider, the split hem will make the fit a little bit better. But I also offered a cropped version. So here is my cropped vine top sample, and it's very short. It's just a shorter version of that, and without the split hem, because this one it stopped right at my waist. I'll put some short videos of me trying on these two tops, and then I think they both fit great. And now I kind of prefer the cropped version. I don't know. What about you? What do you think? And anyway, that's my vine top. Oh, and the front and the back are exactly the same, so that when you're throwing it on, you don't have to worry about the front and back. It will fit nicely. And even the small details, the vines, they are even continuous right at the top of the shoulder strap. So basically I asked you to, in the pattern, it's like knitting the front triangles first, and then pick up and knit stitches to knit the back triangle. And I arranged the stitches very carefully so that the vines will remain continuous, just so it's growing throughout the whole pattern. And it's, the edge was just a 3-stitch I-cord. I think it gives you an integrity of the pattern very nicely. And regarding the yarn, I used a Chinese yarn. It's the Linen 100 from Lotus Yarn, or in Chinese name they were Shenglian Yama. They have Etsy shop and AliExpress as well. It's very good pure linen yarn. I highly recommend it. And it's a like light fingering to lace weight yarn. It's very thin, and I held it double, and I was knitting on 3.5mm needle. So it's together, the two strands, they sort of equal sports weight yarn. So you can use other sports weight summer yarn to knit this pattern, or you can even use a DK, but knit it on a tight gauge just to have like a more like a sturdier fabric, or you can use like a heavier fingering to have a slightly see-through fabric. This one is actually a little bit see-through if I see from here, but I enjoy the feeling of pure linen. It cools. It cools down, and it doesn't like stick to your body. It has awesome temperature regulation, so I enjoyed it. It's currently in the testing. A few of my test knitters have already finished their version. There's a white version. I'll put some pictures for my test knitters, and there's a red version that was finished and a purple version that was finished. I'm so happy with how colorful my test knitters have selected for their vine top, and they've also like played with the length or chose the split or no split. So I like the different options of their knitting, and also all my designs are size inclusive. I have graded my pattern from XS up to 5XL to fit bust measurements from 75 centimeter up to 150 centimeter. So you should be able to find a size that fits you nicely, and you can also play with the length of the garment to your liking. So yeah, so that's the vine top design, and together they use up like 5 balls of the linen yarn that I had. So another winning of the game of yarn chicken. You can see what I like. And also, if you like the vine stitch pattern, I've already finished this design of the vine tee. It's the tee version, featuring the same vine stitch pattern, and on the underarm on the side it also has a little bit more vines. For my vine tee, I have a high split hem, but there's options for a no split hem, and I think that's great if you make it into a very cropped or like more with a negative ease version. I've had a few test knitters who knitted it that way, and they look really, really nice. This one is already on Ravelry. It's been posted for a couple of weeks by now, and I think it's been well received. Sort of. I think more people like the vine top than the vine tee. I don't know. And this is the top-down raglan design, so this construction is sort of different, but featuring a similar stitch pattern ideas. And I also love how the stitch pattern, the bind stitch, goes from the collar and through and end at the bottom hem of the garment. So that's the same kind of idea that I want to play with in the bind series. So yeah, so if you like these, please check them out on Ravelry. You can just search for these in projects to see the test knitters versions, or check out the pattern for vine tee since it's already been published. And I also put a link in below in the description. And that's about my design. And then next finished objects, I've finally finished this one. If you've been watching my podcast, you probably remember I've been knitting this since January or since March. It's been quite a few months since I've been working on this. It's the Jules Genser. The pattern is from the Sandnes Garn 2202 magazine. I've knitted quite a few designs out of this book. It's a very nice pattern book. I enjoy this one, and I knitted this. So it's a single strand of mohair, and it's a top-down round yoke design. And the yarn I used was just a Chinese cheap mohair, a nylon mohair, so it's not as good as the Sandnes Garn, the tin silk mohair. So it's less fluffy, there's less mohair in it, so the fabric was very, very, very see-through, so it's thinner than the original fabric. And I also had to reduce the needle size by like 0.25 millimeter so that I can meet gauge, and the the gauge doesn't look too ridiculous. I used only 5 balls, so the whole garment was only 100 grams. So it's super light. I can like just squeeze it and put it in a bag. And it's very nice as I could add extra layer for like a summer night when it gets a little bit cold, or spring, late spring. It was quite cold a couple days ago, in Vancouver. It recently turned warmer, but it was quite cold, and it was exactly the weather that I could wear this one. I'll just like show it to you, throw it on. So I think my version is best paired with a camisole, or like my vine top. I usually wear this with my vine top, so I don't think it looks very nice with the Kuutar top because the Kuutar there's lace work, and this Jules Genser there's also a lot of lace work. So I think it looks better with a darker garment inside, so that the lace pattern shows a bit more nicely. But yeah, but I like it. The fit is great. The thickness is great. It's just I cannot wear it alone. Like I cannot even wear it with my basic bra that I've knitted. It just like too exposed, too much skin. So with the camisole, so this is how I wear it, and it's also nice for like when you want a little bit of shade from the sunlight. So that's how I would wear this garment. It's very beautiful. So it takes a lot of time, especially like the stockinette session. It on 2.75mm needles. It took me forever, but yeah, but I finally finished knitting it, and I was able to wear it for the past few like colder days. But I think from today onwards, it will be more of a camisole season. So yeah. And one more finished, not object, but it's more like a modification. It's my pine fur sweater. I finished it a while ago, maybe in January or February. This is my own design. The pattern is in testing. It's more of a thicker sweater, so I don't want to release the pattern in like now. So I'm thinking I'll release it in like early or mid-August, when it's getting close to fall and people are planning on their colder garment. And the testing is almost done. It will be finished in mid-July-ish. So all my testers will have finished their version. And the thing I modified was the sleeve, the cuff. And one of my testers, Mariana, I hope I pronounced the name correctly, and she did, instead of the my original design with the twisted, just the twisted stitch rib, instead of that, she did the cuff in pattern, which is the same pattern as the collar pattern. So it's like a twisted stitch, cabled, twisted rib cabled stitch sort of pattern. Anyway, I'll have a tutorial for this cable accompanied with the pattern. So yeah, so don't worry if this seems too intimidating for you. And it looks beautiful, and I loved her modification so much that I decided to modify my own, and also updated my pattern to include this kind of sleeve as an option. So one regular sleeve and one modified sleeve, just so that I can show you all the options of my pine fur sweater sample. And I also took a few nice photos. I'll just show you one. I think I'll put this photo as the feature photo to like when I upload this to Ravelry. I think that's the best photo I've taken for this sweater, and I'm really happy with it. And be sure to check out the hashtag pine fur sweater on Instagram, or search for projects on Ravelry, pine fur sweater, and you can see all the beautiful versions from my test knitters. I'm always surprised in a good way to see how my testers, how the same design comes up differently when they choose different yarn on a different gauge, or whenever they made fun modifications. So, and also sometimes like this modification, it inspired me to change my original design. So working with test knitters is a great experience for me as a knitwear designer, and I'm very grateful to my test knitters. And also I added a written instruction for the charts of the pine fur sweater pattern, because for my bind tee and bind top series, my test knitters and other knitters, they have enjoyed having the written instruction and the charts side by side. And for the pine fur, it's a much more complicated cable design. So before I didn't include the written instruction, but I think with the written instruction, it might encourage more knitter to try out some more complicated cable sweater, just to make my pattern more accessible, and it's not too much work for me to generate the written instruction with the charting app that I use. So I guess just why not? I'll supply that as an extra extra, like a supplemental file, so that those who would like to have the written instruction could download that separately, or those who don't can just use the charts by themselves. So, or some people, whenever they're unsure whether they have read the charts correctly, there's always the written instruction to help you check whether your understanding was correct. So I think I'll do that for all my future patterns. Written instruction with the charts, both are provided. And yeah, so that's the Pine Fir Sweater. And that's all the finished objects. And then I have a couple of work in progress to show you, mostly small things. So the first one is a little design from me. It's quite hard to see and is very much subject to change. So it's also in the Vine series. This will be my Vine Camisole. This is or a Vine Bralette. I'm not sure yet, and it's highly possible that I'll just combine the Camisole and the Bralette in the same pattern, so that you can make this to whatever length that you like. So that's one triangle. I'm currently working on the second triangle. It features the same vine stitch pattern, and the different thing would be that, so it's like a provisional cast on, and you knit the two triangles. It's very much a 3D, so it's harder to show. So maybe I'll put it here in my chest. The shape will be like this. It's more of like a fitted garment than a loose fit. And then this strap will go to the back. And in the back, this string of mine will go horizontal to meet with the other strap. And so there will be a part where you knit sidewards to, and then sew in the middle. And then on the bottom is either a double folded hem, so that you can thread an elastic for your bralette, or you can knit it longer to be a camisole for whatever length. And I assume making it very much longer into a slip dress would look nice too, and same for the vine top. I think this would look really nice if like you do some increase and then just knit it into a very long dress and do this split hem, like, or even the high split hem from the knee down. But I don't have the time to knit a full dress out of it. I would love to have a dress. Or one of my test knitters, they are hoping to do that when they have this much of yarn and time. It's a very addictive knit, so maybe someone, if you're interested in knitting this into a dress someday, I really hope that somebody could do that. Okay, back to my vine bralette or top, and I'm knitting this on a 3.5mm needle. The yarn I'm using is a Chinese bamboo. It's a summer yarn. It's this one. It's called 竹雨, or the English name is mild. The brand is 时刻. So I'll type down the things below. It's 53% cotton, 33% bamboo, and 14% linen. It's very much similar to the Lune by Sandnes Garn. The only difference is in linen there was 33% viscose, and the 竹雨 is 33% bamboo. The other components are exactly the same. And the name 竹雨 literally translates to bamboo ring, so it's a very beautiful name. I don't know why they translate into mild. It's a very poetic name in Chinese, actually. And so this is the yarn, and I think the thickness is almost the same as Lune. It's just the coloring. It's less shiny as the this is the vine tee was made by Lune, and it's less shiny. It's more of a matte texture with the bamboo yarn, and it's also slightly thinner but almost comparable. I'm knitting on 3.5mm needle because I want it to be a tighter gauge, just in case if I want to wear it into a bralette. I want it to be a tight fabric, so hence using the 3.5mm needle. I've also had a few test knitters using this yarn to knit the vine top, which looks great. It would just be a tighter, not see-through kind of fabric, but it feels nice. It's a nice yarn to have. So yeah, so that's my unfinished, subject to change, new design. It would just be like an I-cord camisole, the shoulder strap here from here on. So yeah, let me know how you think of it. I think the vine series is not finished yet. I have plans to do a vine socks and a vine sweater and maybe a cardigan, and we'll see. I very much enjoy just having this simple but interesting stitch pattern scattered all around different constructions of garments and place them differently, and also to make great fit and beautiful design. So yeah, it would be like a little bit similar but also very different for each type of garment. I think it's very much fun, and also I love the color of green, so it's nice to have a plant or the green like a plant themed design name so that I can use more green yarns basically. And speaking of green yarn, I have another green yarn object. So it's another basic bra. The basic bra is a pattern from NakedKnit. So this is the pattern. It's just the basic knitted bra, and I've knitted one. I've worn this beneath the camisole, and I've showed that in a few episodes before. And I love the pattern so much. The fit was great, the style was great, and it used very little yarn. So I just decided to make another one, and these are so far what I have worked. And the yarn I used is also from 时刻, which literally translates to 10 o'clock. But I think they use the Chinese pinyin spelling in the English world, and I think they sell on Amazon. They're not particularly targeting on the overseas market. They did send me these yarn for free, just to be clear, but I don't think I could do much ad for them if they aren't really selling too much of their yarn here. So this one is a 25% silk, raw silk, and 75% cashmere. So it's like a silk brushed cashmere. So just look at the texture. I like this yarn so much. It feels great, and it's the first time that I actually ever worked with cashmere. Normally I would not be able to afford it, and I'm glad that they sent me these. So I'm super thankful actually. And just knitting with these is like knitting on cream, and I also like the little bit of shininess coming from the silk. So this is how the fabric looks like. I'm holding them double because it's a very thin thread, and I don't want the bra to be too see-through, so I had to hold them in double, and knitting on 2.5mm needle as instructed by the pattern. This looks great, and the button band was super cute. It was like knitting with cream or knitting with butter. I've never enjoyed knitting with any yarn so much. Like sometimes I just want to knit this yarn to feel relaxed. Like I don't do this for other projects. Like other projects I just knit for the fun of knitting, the techniques. But for this one, I did knit for the yarn because I want to touch the cashmere. And after that, I have a little crochet project. There's not much to see yet. It's just a round bottom. I'm making a crocheted bag out of a Chinese raffia yarn from Huicai, which they are not targeting the overseas market again. So like these yarn, you can only buy them if you read Chinese and can use Chinese app and use the Chinese paying app basically. So yeah, so that's the thing. So just watch me here chatting about those. And yeah, so that's just the round bottom. I want to make something like this from my Japanese raffia crocheted bag book. So I've showed this book a few episodes before, so I just want to make something like this with a round bottom and some textured edge, and this book provides a lot of different options. So I think I'm going to like combine different textures for the size. I'll do like a few rows of these holey textures and then a few rows of these tighter textures. I think it would be super cute, especially like when I'm biking so much these days, and it will like hold the shape and fit nicely into the basket of the bicycle. I haven't been working on this project for so long just because of all the other knitting projects and designs, but I do want to finish this one before summer ends so that I feel it's more like a summer kind of accessory, so I'll need to find some time for it. And so that's pretty much all of my knitting projects, and then I'll show you my sewing progress. And I have a sewing finish object. Ta-da! So this is my shorts, and this is the first pair of shorts that I've ever sewn. It's the second garment I've ever sewn. If you watch my previous episodes, I finished the little dress a few episodes ago, and the fabric is the same because I have some left over. This one only takes like less than a meter of fabric, so it's a good stash busting project for sewing. And I like it so much because it has 4 general sized pockets. See the pockets, and it looks very neat. And the back is, there's a like little elastic on the back, and there are back pockets as well. And the front looks better with the little pleats. I think the pleats look very neat. I think it's just the size I've chosen was a bit too big. I would size down if I am to make the pattern again. I like the fabric in the shorts. It's very lightweight, very drapey, and it fits the weather very well, and it's not too short. Like some of the shorts, they are like just too short, and I'm kind of constantly in fear that I might expose something, but this is just enough length for shorts. So I like the shape very much, and I might make this pattern again. And just speaking about the pattern, it's from a Japanese sewing book. The Chinese translation is what I have, and just for all the Japanese knitting books that I've talked in my channel, you can find almost all of them on Etsy. There's a seller called Pomodoro 24, and I've bought a few Japanese books from her, and she has a very nice collection. So in the sewing section, you may be able to find this book. And I sewed the shorts from this book, which is this is what it looks like in the original design. And I enjoy this book very much because for all the designs, she has pockets. Like from the other two sewing book I had, Japanese sewing book, not all of the designs had pockets, especially the skirt that I made from another book. There's no pockets. So I think I'll like work a lot more, do a lot more patterns from this book from now on. And let's talk about what I'm going to make, the work in progress. So I'm going to make this cute skirt. It has pockets, so that's good. And I also want to learn how to make pockets in skirt just by doing these patterns. And then I want to modify my first skirt. I think I want to modify it so that it has pockets. And also I want to resew this band because now the wrong side is showing. In the original pattern they use a solid color fabric, so it doesn't matter, but mine does have a print and it doesn't look so neat. So I think I might modify my pattern to be something like this print skirt in this book. The belt was threaded through the waistband, so it's similar, but it has pockets and a nice bow tie thing. And I've cut the fabric for my next projects. This is the fabric I'm going to use, and I've actually cut out 2 projects out of it. This part is for the shorts. It's the same pattern that I've done, but I'm going to make it one size smaller. And then these fabric I've already cut. That's for the skirt, for the like blue striped skirt. These are already cut according to the pattern, and these just need to be sewn, which I think will be quick. The shorts only took me a day to sew. The cutting took me another day, so it's really fast in terms of like the time cost. And I don't know what it's like for like English patterns. In this book they have these paper patterns, so I just like lay them flat and trace down the part that I want to. So I think it's the same for all different language patterns, right? It's not like the English knitting patterns, the Japanese knitting patterns, they are so different from the English ones, but I think the sewing pattern would probably look similar. And like these sewing books, they feature some modeling in the front, and then there's a like sort of a step-by-step illustrated instructions. So I think it's probably more readable. It doesn't require you to know a lot about charts to be able to use them. So I think if you're a sewist and you like more of the Japanese design style, you could look into these Japanese design pattern books. And that's all my handcraft projects. And let's talk about new acquisitions. Very funny acquisition to show you, and that's my PhD diploma. Well, I guess that counts as an acquisition. I paid 5.5 years for this, so it's more than buying yarn. So I think I have the right to show this to you. So yeah, now I am a PhD in mechanical engineering, and yes, that's my diploma. And I've actually graduated last year. I defended in November 2022 last year and finished all the submitting thesis, that sort of thing, by December, and have left UBC since then. And since December last year, I've started trying to work as a knitwear designer, indie designer, and also I started working as a staff member at Wackles Wools, our local yarn store. So just basically throw away my PhD degree and just embracing the yarn world. That's what I've done for the past half year basically. And I only recently got the diploma because I just like how they do the graduation ceremony. It only happens once in May and once in September. I'm not sure actually. I think only once in May. So the degree is only conferred, officially conferred then. So that's why I only recently got it. I didn't go to the graduation ceremony just because honestly I wasn't very happy doing the PhD. It was so much hard work, and I didn't find too much meaning in it, and in the meantime I just got all involved in the yarn world, and I'd rather spend the day knitting or designing, writing patterns, or staying at the yarn store and touching all the yarns instead of wearing a fancy gown and having somebody call out my name and talk about liquid jet impingement on the moving surface. So that's basically what happened, and that's my life for the past half a year. And I've been telling myself that this year is gonna be like a gap year thing, and I'll just like try out a career of being an indie designer and see how it goes, see where it takes me. But just recently I feel like probably financially I would still need to find like a proper job instead of just only doing knitting design. I've done a little bit of research of like how indie designers earn, and since I'm only beginning, I've only published a couple like sweater patterns, and there's only one, the vine tee, that's currently in season, and I could not like just sell, I don't know, to make for the like the time that I paid for doing this design. I would need to sell like hundreds and hundreds of copies of the pattern to be compensated properly for the hours that I put into it. But that's not the truth. Like I've only sold less than 30 copies, let's say, for the vine tee, and I'm hoping to be able to sell more. But yeah, but that's the hard truth for me. And it's just like I have to be able to like win a lottery for suddenly one of my designs just got super popular. It just became the next Ronique, and everybody was knitting it, everybody was talking about it. Like to be able to become an indie designer financially good enough, and I'm not in a place where I can be like a stay-home wife or a stay-home mom, and so I'd still need some to put my PhD degree into use and to do some like engineering or I don't know, data wrangling kind of work, and then to be able to keep financially supporting my knitwear design. And also recently I started watching some of Sari Nordlund's, the designer of the Kuutar top. I started watching some of her older episodes, and I watched those episodes that she felt frustrated and she was struggling with her designer career because she was working for a yarn company as like an in-house designer, as well as working on her own business to do her indie designs, and it was very difficult for her to be able to just live on her own salary of being the indie designer. So she was only financially well enough, like famous enough in the designing world after 2 years of hard work, of like working 2 jobs, like 7 days a week, no holidays for her, that she was able to quit her day job and work solely on her own knitting design. And that's Sari. That's the great designer Sari who've been so accomplished and who've done so much. And I'm only starting to design for less than half a year, and how am I expecting that I can just do this solely? So that's probably just a dream, and I think I have to like stay on the ground and think about my future properly, and also dream big. I will continue pursuing my dream of doing a knitwear design, because I love doing this and putting my creativity as well as my technical savviness into this work. But also probably I need to find an extra job, so that's part of where I am at my life. So yeah, so it's just a little bit of life chat. Okay, I hope that's not too dark, too depressing. I still want to so let's still think about the great things about knitting, which is the craft that we all love. So that's why you're still here. And thank you for watching my episodes. I hope that was fun for you. If you would like to support my channel and my design, please check out my patterns on Ravelry under the name Seedling Stitch Designs or Athena Liu. Give me a thumbs up in this video. Keep the notification on if you would like to be notified when I have new videos. And also I have a Ko-fi page where you can donate or become a monthly supporter. It's in ko-fi.com/seedlingstitch. And in the end of my episodes, I usually play a bit of piano on my antique piano, sort of out of tune, but it sounds beautiful. I like it. And today, since we're doing like a moon goddess theme, I'll be playing a moon-related song. It's the Clair de Lune by Debussy, and I've played the top part of this song before, and today I'll just play the end part of this song, as it's very difficult to play, and I only have so little time to practice my piano because I knit too much. And yeah, so hope you enjoy my episodes and happy knitting. See you next time. Bye. If you would like to support my channel and my design